to Monday Musing. I always have to look. I can never remember. Monday Musing 11. So yeah, officially into like door figures and beyond for my Monday Musing. So thanks to everybody who's already on the chat and tuning in. That's wonderful. I've got 26 people watching and 3 likes already. So thank you very much. That's awesome. Well, yeah, usual format really. Let's start with a bit of a catch up on who's on the chat. And if you're on the chat right now, pop in, say hello, and I'll give you a shout out. Tonight's subject is scenery. So I'm going to focus quite a bit on scenery, I think, because I've got quite a lot to say, and hopefully all of you wonderful people have got lots to say as well. So let's have a look at the chat first and see if we can catch up. I'm assuming you can all see me. I usually ask, don't I, and say, can somebody let me know? But there's a 20-second delay, and I just storm on anyway. So, right, well, Stalker 40k was in bright and early tonight at 6 o'clock, helping me test with a 1, 2, and a 3. Medic 666 is in the house, and who have we got here? Well, we've been talking a little bit actually on the chat around what's going off with the Grand Tournament army as well, which we'll come back to that if that's okay. And what else have we got? Robbie Cohen has joined us. Wow, Alt Boys coming in. Ralph Hummel is here. Good evening, sir. Homish is in. Homish 1. And Stalker 40k, I think I've mentioned. Scott Beale, Void 72. Ray Minto coming in and saying hi. Hello, Ray. Scott Beale again. DJ the Lucky One saying hi to everyone, so that's fantastic. Tabletop Ops is saying greetings to all, so welcome. Cut It Custom, hello all. Not sure I've seen you before, so maybe you've hung around in the background or you're just on a different account, so who knows. Wait, I think, is that Kablams in a different profile maybe? Not quite sure. Anyway, hello Cut It Custom, we'll see. Oh wait, Kablams did say he got the wrong account again. Well, there you go. Primaris Marine DL DYL. Yeah, excellent. You have made it in time for the live show. I hope I don't let you down. Big Mac Danskill's in the chat. Evening all. Karanis saying hello. Fell hate. Woohoo! Monday Musings. Sam said he killed my interweb. He kind of did, and it wasn't really his fault. We have a shared Google Drive because we're miles away from each other. And Sam was having a massive tidy up and changed everything on his Google Drive. And he didn't know my machine was still active because I was doing some stuff. And basically, it just chewed up the last 5 or 6 gig of my internet. For those of you who don't know, I don't have a decent hardline connection. So I have to do it over 4G for the broadcast, and therefore it's limited, which is unfortunate. But the good news is, today I drove past an endless stream of diggers who were all digging a channel to lay underground conduit, which I know is going to contain fibre optic cable. So I was pretty excited. I gave them a beep and a wave. They all thought I was crazy. Maybe they're used to it by now. Who knows? When they're laying optical cable down to rural locations, probably they just get greeted like heroes. I don't know. Anyway, so I'm pretty excited. I've got an update. Supposedly now my fibre broadband, or Filber beardband, as we described earlier on Facebook, should be live by December. So it will be exciting times because it means I'll be a lot happy to do longer shows and also stream some stuff from the studio here as well. Such as big scenery jobs and things like that. When I'm just doing, I think I'll just either go live on Twitch like Sam's been doing, or something like that. Right, let's keep going on the chat. Derpimus Maximus fought for the day. Scenery is great, but not always available. Books, cereal boxes, even masking tape works as stand-ins as long as you can communicate what it's meant to be. Yeah, well, most battle boards start with such paraphernalia, and I'm certainly not opposed to it. Back in my day, I made my first land speeder out of a underarm deodorant stick. And there's probably a few of you out there who actually remember what I'm talking about there, but there was an article in White Dwarf about how to do it. No, indeed, Sam's not the best saboteur, nor was he an intentional saboteur. To be honest, I think my bad back just made me grumpy about it. So the Alt Boys is in, Nafa99's in, he loves his paper towel, toilet paper roll tower, perfect. Pringles tubs, there are other Curly Crisp brands, but you know, they were always a winner for the Elven Tower. Big Mac Ganskull saying, "Ha! I did cheekily pop on to the countdown. I got bored waiting. I did actually think about just starting the show early, and then I thought it's quite bad if people are tuning in to the start of the show. So what I might do next week, when there's a countdown, I might pop in the little bubble at the top and just chat to people from the bubble while we're all waiting for the show to start. Right." At Wargamer Online, you might appreciate this. Until I can hear your soothing tones, I'm listening to some 80s rock. I do appreciate 80s rock. I'm not sure my tones are soothing, but thank you. Okay, Medic. This is Medic 6666. Topic is strangers. I was talking to my local GW shop people the other day about this. I bought Storm of Sigmar to paint and play. 7-year-old will just use the ketchup of Doom and the HP castle. Perfect. I love the HP castle and the ketchup tower of doom. Furious George is joining us from New Zealand. Hey there, fantastic. Tuesday morning for you, so Monday morning, Tuesday morning musing. And what else have we got? Luca Bastianello. Let's go with that. Hi, Luca. How you doing, man? John Booth's in there as well. Elster Nation saying evening. Akaria is joining the chat. My goodness, inspirational minis in there. Evening, Sir Phil, looking great tonight. I'm not sure about that. I'm not feeling 100%. My back went pretty terrible this weekend. It was pretty much the worst it's been. So I've been in some dark places these last 48 hours. Today I'm feeling a little bit better. But I have to confess I've had to return to some of the more stronger painkillers to get me mobile. So excuse my mad rambling tonight. Anything could happen. Probably explains why I joined in earlier. Right, okay, what have we got? Stephen Humphreys, evening folks. Nathan99, the unwritten rule of wargaming is that we fight in endless fields of open fields. Well, let's talk about that. Robbie Cohen saying hi. Billy Lynch, evening. Goodness me. Loads of people commenting, which is fantastic. Thank you very much. C. Mawson, I'm here. I'm late, but I'm here. Rarely catch the live chats these days. That's true, C. Mawson. We've not seen you for a while, but thank you for joining us. Steve's Small World is saying, I know how you feel. We got fibre, but only part of the village, so won a grant so we could have fibre within 12 months. Well done. Yeah, the fibre was meant to be in here 6 months ago. I got very, very excited. They put the box in, they laid all the cables, they connected all the wires, and then all they had to do was feed one length of fibre about a mile stretch to the nearest main road junction where the fibre was running, and they just couldn't get the cable down there. So they've got to dig up the entire road to get it there. So hence the delay. And I haven't been patient of OpenReach customers, I have to say. I've been on the phone every 10 minutes going, so when are you going to start? Congrats on the fibre, Phil. Ooh, wait, we'll see. Maybe premature at the moment. Kablams, did someone donate £100? Yes, they did. Al Ancient last Monday, actually. So thank you very much. It's one of the few times I almost stopped speaking. It was I was quite blown away by that, and that's not his first donation as well. So again, Al, if you are tuning in tonight, thank you very much for that. There was also Steve actually, and Stalker 40k as well. I think donated last week as well. Was that, and Alt Boys as well. So thank you very much to all of you. The money, I think, is already in part has been wisely spent. We've bought, I think there was obviously I think Mike for Sam. We've invested in all the materials for the Frostgrave / Age of Sigmar skirmish board. That's going to be exciting. We'll talk a little bit about that tonight. Akaria is plugging the channel. Thank you very much, Akaria. You're an angel. DJ the Lucky One, how was Friday at Games Workshop? That will be, so Friday you'll be referring to the Warhammer TV appearance. It was brilliant. It was a lot of fun. And in fact, it was one of the things that prompted tonight's theme because of the board when we arrived there. Not only was it excellent, it was also absolutely smattered with scenery. Primaris Marine. Ah, yes, I agree. I'm too busy doing my Saturn and the Successor Army. I didn't hear your YouTube alert and thought I'd missed. Well, excellent, you're here. Right, okay then. Maybe that's a good point. We've got scenery is very important. An empty battlefield may suit my guard, but is somewhat boring. Well, we'll talk about that. I think scenery for me works in a few different ways, really. Oh, and Emperor of Denmark has just joined us as well. So let's at least say this. Finally got to watch this. So thank you very much, Emperor of Denmark. It's good to have you join. I always enjoy it when royalty joins us. Emperor of Denmark or the Queen of England are big fans of this show. And Decimus Maximus is dealing with that for me. So, right, okay. Okay, they're all going crazy now. Scenery. That was the main chat. Why did I want to talk about scenery, and what did I want to talk about? Well, I think I wanted to have a look at various things. This was most likely prompted by, if I can get up, two things, and I'm not 100% this is going to work, so let's see if we can make it work. I'm certainly not going to show the whole Twitch stream because this isn't my property at all. So this is the Warhammer show where Sam and I were on for the game, and as you can see, the gaming table was just absolutely littered with scenery, and it was fantastic. There was just loads of crates, and then these little bridge sections here, and then bits of the Armageddon scenery, and tall massive towers which Sam wasn't allowed to deploy his snipers on, and even more Armageddon scenery put together in interesting and wonderful ways laid on their side, etc. So that was the first thing that prompted the conversation, or at least the debate, because I was surprised how much scenery was on the table. It was brilliant. I mean, it made the game really dynamic. We really had to move around. Line of sight played a major part in it. And I think up until now, I'd not been too impressed with scenery in 8th edition 40k. I didn't see it having much of an impact. You know, you got the pretty much universal cover save, and there's a lot of things that strip that cover save away anyway. So from my point of view, and again, the kind of old, crikey, Inspirational Mini just donated £8.94, so thank you very much, Inspirational Mini, and thanks for the shout out last week. That's okay, man, but thank you. I really appreciate that. So yes, what was interesting about that was line of sight blockage. It made you have to move around. It took away some of the power of things like the Vindicares and stuff like that. You know, Sam was really limited on line of sight. He had to choose his targets carefully. And I think there's so many games I've played recently where, from a scenery point of view, you go for the 2 pieces of scenery per 2 foot square, maybe 3 pieces of scenery per 2 foot square, and there's all sorts of mechanisms you can roll for scenery and all the rest. But when I looked at that table, I'm just going to bring it up. It's a little bit dull because it's on pause, but like I say, I don't want to upset the guys at Warhammer TV, because if you want to watch the battle, you need to go along and subscribe to it. So, but if I just bring it up on pause, you know, on that 2x2 section alone, there's 1 piece there. So 1, 2. I mean, arguing that's 1 piece of scenery. I'd argue that's more like 2 pieces of scenery, if not more. But 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of scenery just on that piece there. And then if we go over here, 1 absolutely huge piece of scenery, another one there, another one there. So that's 3 pieces of scenery on that section. 1, 2, 3, 4 again on there, with some scattered terrain as well. So another, you know, arguably 2 pieces of terrain, 1, 2, sort of 3 and 4. So you were really looking at 4 pieces of terrain per 2 foot square, and it really felt incredibly immersive. It was just a great game to play. I was sneaking guys around corners, I was dodging line of sight, and you know when you get a lot of games where you kind of like, now line of sight is turned into as long as any part of the model can see any other part of the opponent model. It was really nice to have some significant terrain to take it up. And then I was, you know, so I'd got all of that going off, I think, in my head, and then I sort of came back home and thought I really need to get the city board done. And then I looked at the city board, and a lot of the scenery, I have absolutely no idea why my, you know, don't know what's going off there, so let's just turn the volume down. I hope you can still hear me. Yes. Okay, lots of binging there for some reason. So I turned the what was I saying? Oh no, I've completely lost my track. Right. looking at the city scenery, it's very open. All the windows and all the rest means you can kind of shoot through them. And all the rest. Something's making a ping noise. It's doing my head in, but I have no idea what is making that noise. So I tell you what, let's see if I can just turn that off completely. That might work. Who knows? We'll try. And it made me look back at the Armageddon scenery I'd done, and I was thinking, well, that's decent line of sight blocking. And then I was looking at the recent work I'd done for the Zone Mortalis board that we built, and it made me get quite inspired about scenery, basically. That's the long and short of it. And I've decided that unless the scenery is dense and compact, then I don't really think it has much of an impact on the game. Now, that's about gameplay. So I'm hoping that some people have sort of commented on how they feel it impacts gameplay as well, because we can jump back through the chat. And I'd really like to know how people feel gameplay is impacted. You know, how much scenery is too much scenery? Can you have too much scenery? Can you have too little scenery? I think you can do that. I've seen some games where you're playing with just like 4 or 5 pieces, big open battlefields, and they just turn into well, you feel sorry for the assault-based armies who have to march through all of that. And I suppose, yeah, you know, coming back to that as well, that's, you start to then look at Alpha Strike to try and get your combat army into combat in first turn. I think it's a shame that, to a degree, that there needs to be a mechanic to get into combat in first turn, because I think if the battlefield is you know, blocked with enough line of sight blocking terrain, then actually you can survive a couple of turns as you weave and dodge in between buildings and head across and that kind of thing. So anyway, I'd love for people to make a comment, and we'll come back to that. I think the other thing is, for me, the two sides of it then. One was about how it impacts gameplay. And I still want to come back to some of that, because we haven't really talked about Age of Sigmar, and certainly haven't talked about Frostgrave yet. So I'd like to come back to kind of the impact on gameplay, but we'll have a look at the chat. And then the other thing is really about the aesthetic of the game, really. You know, it felt, you know, obviously the Warhammer TV thing was quite exciting to do, but also the board was an absolute pleasure to play on. So it's really made me kind of look long and hard at the tables for our bat reports, and I just want to stack more and more scenery on. I mean, to a degree, it becomes problematic because you're trying to film, but I think we've got so many camera angles going off now. Before we move on to aesthetics and talking about a whole bunch of stuff, because I want to have a look at, if you know, official Games Workshop terrain. There's the new board that's been released this week or last week. We have a video going up at a review going up at 10 o'clock tonight. So at the end of this chat on the YouTube channel, there is a review of Micro Art Studio Battlefield terrain. They sent a couple of pieces through to us, so I'd like to talk about their stuff because I'm very impressed with that. And then I want to have a little bit at 3D printing, which is something I got a 3D printer probably about a year ago now, and I spent the first 6 months printing out more parts for the 3D printer and getting very excited about making it super 3D printable. And it's now, interestingly enough, it's become one of my go-to modeling tools. I use it quite often for all sorts of nonsensical stuff as well. So we'll have a little chat about that as well. And then I think we'll just have a little bit of a Q&A sort of thing. But we're 20 minutes in, so let's catch back up with the chat and see what's happening. Right, okay. What have we got? Ralph Hummel. So, Inspirational Mini, thank you very much, by the way. He was just putting a little smiley face. Ralph Hummel, Scott Bill, yeah, I was peeling masking putty from my model for some reason. I thought I had a brush in my hands. I'm not quite sure what happened there. Oh, that's licking brushes. Is licking brushes a bad thing or a good thing? Maybe that's a separate question line to do, but give me a shout on that one then. Got to say the line of sight rules. This is Natha99 saying, I've got to say the line of sight rules are pretty lacking. Yeah, I think it's a shame that they've gone to that sort of any point of the model to any point of the model, because I do think that penalizes, you know, the kind of more inventive modeling. I like the idea when it was the main body. I think the whole thing about any point to any point is it can't be disputed, can it? I mean, that's the whole point. If you can see a point of a spear to a point of a banner, and you can see them, then there's no dispute. As soon as you start saying things like, well, you know, peripheral things don't matter, such as banners, wings, etc., etc., then it starts to get vague and is open for debate and disagreement. So I understand why Games Workshop have done it, but I'm kind of with you. I think it's you know, I've been shot at when literally the point of the banner on the back of my Wraithlord, in fact you can kind of see it on that battle report, I added 2 banners to the back of the Wraithlord, making him a good 2 inch taller, and of course you just get penalised for that now, you know. So the idea of being penalised for sort of modifying your model, I think, is a bit of a shame, but it's not the end of the world. Like I say, I think all it's going to do is have an impact on the size of the terrain that we all start to field and build. Right, Luca, I played for years in tournaments with a Padana Plain camp. It means centre of the table completely deserted, so I appreciate a lot of senior. I admit it, I'm not glad in creating them. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Those big open areas in the centre of the board, I'm starting to more and more drive towards occupy the centre of the board to stop that big mash in the middle that can happen on some of the games. Okay, Steve's Small World. I did a Frostgrave table, but as I wanted buildings I could use for other non-snow tables, I started using hairspray on house roof and snow flog. Brush it off after the game and goes back in the pot. Seriously? That's a brilliant idea. Is that a lot of work? I don't know, but I really like it. I really like the idea. We've got a few of our Sigmar armies that are sort of snow-based anyway, and we also have a snow table, so I think I'm fairly happy with making the snow permanent, but that is a good idea. Kudos to you, sir. Nathan99, I can see that guy's arm peeking from that house window, therefore I can shoot him. Yeah, I know, that's the problem, is it? Thinking you usually get some cover bonus. Right, Liam Bradley. Never fear, the Liam is here. So Liam has joined us, and so has Matthew Judge. Depends on your army. The board looked really cinematic. I agree, it makes it more dynamic and challenging. That's from DJ the Lucky One. Yeah, it did feel very cinematic, and you know, and I appreciate that. Obviously, Warhammer TV have got to try and show the hobby at its best as well. So the quick point is going to be, obviously, that's hundreds and hundreds of pounds worth of official scenery, but I come back, lots of very interesting stuff can be done with balsa wood, Pringles tubs, and all sorts of things. You can soon make towers and square buildings and all the rest. It's just have some fun doing it. We should do a tutorial on making cardboard scenery, maybe. Certainly the 5mm foam board is really good for that. Oh, my sinuses are itching, so I do apologise. Right, Nathan99, I'm of the opinion if you have some variety between sparse and another battlefield that is more cluttered, that'll balance itself out. Yeah, certainly if you're playing on a regular basis against the same players, it's a good idea to sort of allow some of those armies to have that open field. Okay, DJ the Lucky One, I haven't got enough scenery that I'm happy to put down, so, but yeah, that again is the issue, isn't it? It's difficult. I was interested to see what the chaps at well, let's bring it up actually, because we'll have a quick look at what did I want to do. So let's have a look at the 2 things that have come out, or at least 2 things that have happened fairly recently. First then is this Realm of Battle Moonbase Clalisus, who knows? Why do they do that to us? Why do they make it impossible for me to pronounce when I've had all my painkillers? Couple of interesting things about this. The board itself is card, so it's card pieces that fold out and lock together in some way, I think, or you just place them together. The other thing is the scenery is flat packed, so although it makes little cross sections, it comes apart. It's really quite nice. And the other interesting thing is the size of the table. It's something like 5'6" by 3'3", and I think this is a really good idea from GW, this Battlefield in a box for £50. And of course the size, everyone's going, well, that's crazy because the table's 4 foot by 6 foot. Well, it fits a dining table. It's as simple as that. Vast majority of dining tables, that means if you're picking this hobby up for the first time, or you just want a quick game with a friend, you haven't got to have a dedicated board. You put this down on your table and you are doing quite literally a tabletop battle. It's double-sided, which is really nice. And as you can see, it kind of fold out card sections, so they do connect together in some way. And then the scenery is very similar to the Armageddon scenery. I really hope they release this scenery as well as a separate piece. I don't know whether they will, but I hope they do, because it's nice scenery and it certainly goes well with the Armageddon stuff. So let's just have a quick look at some more of those options, and you can see that's how the sort of cross section works. Because the idea is that when you've finished all of this, you can simply pack this stuff back away into the box. So as you can see, they slot down. You've got these slots here, top and bottom there, so they just slot into each other like that, and jobs are good, and you've got 3D terrain. So first and foremost, that's pretty interesting. The only thing is, you know, yes, it will get you a game. I think you probably need about twice as much terrain, so that's a good reason for them to you know, maybe release the terrain as a separate piece so you can expand this set once you get going, because I do think if you had twice as many pieces, that'd probably cover it for a table that size. Right, okay then, what else have we got going off? Let's batch up with the chat. Wow, chat's really filled up a second. Hold on a second. Here we go. Didymus Maximus. Playing on a small table in old school Warhammer Fantasy Battle, facing off against a friend's Chaos House, being able to charge into combat in turn 1 when they went first made me appreciate terrain. Ouch. Yeah, that would do. Okay, what else have we got? Thanks, Deadpool. I'm not quite sure why Akari is thanking Deadpool. Have I missed something? No, I haven't. Maybe. I'm not quite sure now. Right, where are we now? Matthew Judge played my Grey Knights against Admeterium. Stormraven had nowhere. Survived turn 1, got blasted out of the sky and surrounded by guards. 800 points. Ouch. Yeah, that sounds very, very painful. You know, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because it's that gamble over putting something like that in reserve, because really you do want it on the table. But I think if I know that I'm not going to get first turn, I do spend a great deal of time thinking how much to put into reserve, and it's a calculated risk, because if that stuff doesn't show up, it's horrible. But I have definitely done better in games by using reserves in a tactical way. Vander's Hammerhand. 2 days ago I talked with my friends about terrain in 40k. Previously those beautiful Warhammer World dioramas, although awesome, weren't very practical. Now they're mandatory. 3D60 spin. Yeah, that's the thing. It's tricky, isn't it? That you do need that solid terrain. Blam's message from Luke's APS. Tailful, I'm watching, but I can't comment as I'm on my iPad. But terrain is far more important than models. Luke's APS. Terrain more important than models. Well, that's a okay. One without the other is tricky, but I'm with you. I like a beautiful table, and I'll work pretty hard on getting the terrain. Big Mac Danskull, line of sight blocking is great too. If the enemy can't find my boys, they can't shoot them for the most part. G7A micro. 3D printers are cool stuff, but in fact every kind of terrain could be done as scratch built, or maybe just a bit too much traditionalist. Yeah, you're right. There's nothing wrong with scratch building terrain and messing about and having all sorts of fun. And like I say, I think we've all gone through. I mean, I still look at an interesting yogurt pot or an interesting pop bottle or something like that and go, that'd make a great tower or a storage tank or something like that. And I'm forever squirreling away bits of plastic bidgies and sticking them in drawers, hopefully one day to turn them into a bit of terrain. Right, are you too old to follow 3D graphics technology? Well, there's nobody older than me, and I've managed to pick it up. It's not too bad. There's some software that makes life fairly easy. And of course, there is the wonderful thing is the wonderful thing that is Thingiverse, as it's called, which we'll have a look at in a bit. How am I doing for time? It's only past. Warhammer TV tables. Oh, this is from Neil Malden. Warhammer TV tables are too busy. Top-down view, they look a mess. Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's difficult to showcase the models. It's difficult to see where the models are when they're completely surrounded. But from a player perspective, they were a lot of fun. Right, in terms of aesthetics and getting into a game, it's also great because this is Big Mac Dance School, sorry. Because we use true line of sight, we can get down to model's eye view and really feel the atmosphere of a scenery heavy table. Yeah, it is kind of nice, isn't it, to get down, squint one eye, and kind of imagine what it's like to be hiding underneath that building, trying to keep out of sight. That's why, to a degree, it's slightly annoying when the point of your sword gets you shot in the head. This is Zakaria. I find the most fun when building terrain out of Pringles cans is eating the Pringles first. Well, yes, one could argue there's one thing I've had too many of in my life already, and it's Pringles. I don't know whether there is a lifetime Pringle limit, but if there is, I've exceeded it. Frost and Fist agreeing with Big Mac there on the aesthetics. Duncan pronounced it Clasus. Yeah, actually, you know what? That's not even that hard. So thank you very much, Fel8. You're an angel. Emperor of Denmark, Phil.exe is not responding for me. I'm not quite sure what that means. Does that mean the internet? I hope my internet hasn't failed. Are you guys all still okay? I'm hoping so. Let me just see if there's anything on. It's saying the stream status is good, so I'm not quite sure whether that was just me or when I couldn't think, and it's probably a bit of both. Derpimus Maximus at Big Mac Dance School. If you have a really big terrain, you might need an extra bendy spine to get that model's eye view. Yeah, I've just started laying down on the floor to achieve it. MCM 1966. I'm scratch building all my scenery with a fantasy look for it. So it will work in AOS 40k and Frostgrave, but without the snow. Yeah, you don't. I suppose Frostgrave. The idea is snow's the theme of the army, but theme of the game, but it doesn't have to be, does it? I don't think so. You can get away with anything. Okay, right. I'm going to make one last stab for the bottom of the chat, and if I can get there, then we'll have a look at a couple of other things. Oh, why am I showing you my stream? That's not. There you go. Let's get back to that. Right, where we go. A few people. So, Emperor of Denmark. Can't play with a dense city terrain, otherwise my word bearers are shot. Third turn. Vaughn Killian. Howdy all. Sorry I'm late. Did I miss anything? Me rambling on about scenery, so feel free to join in. Okay, bunch of chit chat about getting fiber optic cameras in there to try and see what you're doing. Mark Ray saying he plays Custodes, so foot slogging across the board if there is limited terrain is a nightmare. Yeah, I hear you, but after going up against Custodes and their 3-up invuln saves, just slog away, you'll be fine. Kablams with his fetish for scenery. I know you do, sir. I've seen plenty of scenery getting produced out of your studio, so it's lovely to see. Right. Inspirational Mini feels he may have been blocked. Why am I blocked? Did I miss something? No, I don't think you were blocked. Was it a connection problem? But I can see no blockage from here, so I hope you're okay. Luca, 3D printing is the future to realise some projects otherwise really too difficult to realise, some particular sceneries without details and sizes of the main structure. Yes, well, certainly the peculiar stuff, and organic shapes was one of the things that I was most interested in, to avoid lots of sculpting and lots of sanding. So Derpimus Maximus remembers painting polystyrene ceiling tiles to make hill levels, so they sort of flat pack. They didn't look awesome, but you could stand minis on them for lots of stability. I remember those days. All hills were essentially like ziggurats. They were stepped, weren't they? So your miniatures would stand nicely on them. Yeah, they at least they were easy to make. And yes, I used polystyrene ceiling tiles when you could still get hold of them, because now they've realised, of course, they just burn like crazy. So I don't think people can even buy them for their houses now, But yes, that's exactly what I use to make my hills as well. Unless I was really excited and managed to come across some heavy, thicker polystyrene as well at times to make bigger hills. Okay, C. Mawson's happily building his Redemptor Dreadnought, and wow, you need to build more of those snazzy shipping containers. That's from Mr. Kablams. Dude, that hoodie looks great. Thank you very much. These were our new WGO hoodies that we got for the Warhammer TV, and it was due to a kind donation from oh no, don't forget, my brain stopped working. Somebody remind me, please. Somebody will know in the chat, but thank you very much. Oh, I can't remember. So, mind, I've failed. Okay, right. Yes, Derpimus Maximus making a very valid point. Some steps were necessary because the models were metal and their center of gravity was higher. Yes, it was hell. Okay, let's have a look at some stuff then. Let's have a look at some crazy scenery stuff that I've been working on and that we've been looking at. Well, first and foremost, let's have a quick sneak preview of what's going live at 10 o'clock tonight. So this is Tabletop Battlefields Mark II by Micro Art Studios. They sent us a couple of pieces to review, basically, and I was pretty blown away by this. And I'm not going to spend too long on them tonight because there's a pretty long review video going up anyway. But I just wanted to mention, I love the idea that they're combining themed mats along with terrain pieces designed to go with the mats. So this hive processing plant, large hills, and these hive ruins. And you can also get an outpost terrain. And then they've got this Tau City or Tau Ceti, this huge tower that they've done, which stands about 13 inches tall. And again, of course, you can buy these as big packs and those kind of things. I think I wanted to mention these for two reasons, really. One, that, you know, we've got the review going up, and it's one of the reasons I was prompted to do the conversation on scenery. And two, just recently on their Facebook page, they basically had a stock clearance where they said, if you're a gaming club out there and you want some scenery and you're prepared to cover the postage of these boxes, we will just send you a massive box full of scenery, which I thought was fantastic. They were just clearing their stock out and they were promoting that scenery onto gaming club tables and providing gaming clubs which are always in desperate need of more scenery. So I thought it was absolutely brilliant what they did. So kudos to them. What I wanted to do was to have a quick look at... I've moved my camera. Oh, I'm so amateurish. Right, let's have a look at this. So this is one of the pieces. Just to give you an idea of scale. I think I'm going to have to zoom out. See if I can do that a little bit more. Sam always says I make that look so professional, but that's far from professional, isn't it? So there you go. This is the hive tower, the hive, and what it was called now, the spore something or other. Absolutely brilliant, loved it. And if I was just to put this next to, this is Jack's in progress wizard for Frostgrave. So he's just working on this little conversion here, and he's huge, by the way. But just to put him next to that, you can see the size of this terrain. So I was really impressed with that. It's really nice stuff. And what was interesting was it's done out of a foaming resin. So that was the other thing. The first thing I did, look, this is quite funny, is first thing I did was just foam. That's going to melt when I hit it with primer. And then I was like, well, it looks like it's had a coat of primer. So I blasted the bottom of it with primer to see what would happen. And great news is it doesn't do anything, because this is a proper resin, and as you can see, it sort of forms a rigid layer at the end, and it really is quite tough as well. So I'm banging on that. It's quite impressive stuff. So I really like that, and I'm pretty excited by what they've done, because I think the Xenos racers, generally from GW, they haven't had the coverage on scenery as much as Imperial have, and quite rightly so, because the centre of the narrative is around Imperial. They can't just produce stuff for everybody, so it's great when companies like that pop along and do something interesting like that. The other thing I wanted to talk about was, so from a third party perspective, the last bit was, I suppose, having a look at things where I've used 3D printing. So if I can go back down to these are my Zone Mortalis doors that I've built. They're not properly painted, by the way. They're only base coated. I really need to make that because they're pretty rough. I sat for one night and managed to base coat most of them, and then I didn't do anything with them because I think Armageddon was released, so I just had to get on with building a bunch of stuff like that. So these are 3D printed, and it was before I'd properly configured the printer as well, but they're not too bad. They print on the roughest quality, and bear in mind that they're meant to be mining doors inside a Zone Mortalis. And what was great about these was I was absolutely dreading building the doors for Zone Mortalis because I thought it was going to take me weeks and weeks and weeks to build all of these doors, and I don't know why, but it hadn't occurred to me to dust off the 3D printer that I've been gathering dust and make that work. So I basically produced these. I'm not sure this is going to work, but let's see if it will. So this is an example of the quarantine door. What I was doing here then was making half of the door. And the reason I was doing that is I was going to sandwich a bit of frosted plastic in between the two. So as you can see, it's the great thing about this software is this is using SketchUp, and as you can see, I can put each individual rivet on there, and it's got all sorts of wonderful tools where you can just duplicate those rivets across over a distance and space them all out. So as you can see, I've got my little guide markers set up and everything. So it took me probably about, once I'd bent my head around the software, about an hour to build that. And then all I did was set 5 copies of that door printing overnight. So that's the piece that was designed. That's the clear plastic in between, and as you can see when you look from above, it's just a sandwich. So those 2 flat pieces. If we were to take, say, a look at this door here, this was, let me see if I can bring this up. Okay, I just remembered I never actually saved the full door. So this was a test door that was in production. But again, as you can see, this was the same thing. And interestingly enough, these were designed upright. So as you see them here is how they printed out. And what was great about that was once the door was complete, I could print literally 20 of these out in one go because they were all stood on the printer, just millimeters away from each other. And that was the great thing about it, was it kind of worked out the closer they were, the less the print head had to jump around. So I think the record I did was 22 in one print. Left the thing going for about 12 hours, and 12 hours later I'd got 22 doors. It was amazing. Absolutely loved it. And the good news is you can take the design and you can just reduce it down. So these are the single doors for my Zone Mortalis board, and then this is a lift door. So again, just taking the same design, copy pasting elements of the 3D object, turning into the little opening and closing lift doors for the lift shafts and those kind of things. So I'm not saying I'll produce all of my scenery with 3D printing, but considering the 3D printer I bought was a kind of build it yourself one that cost me about, I think about £120. You spend more on a single model. Definitely if you're into Forge World, you spend more on a single model. I don't think that was a huge investment to get the kind of printer up and running. The spools are about £20 for the PLA spools, and I've used less than half a spool to print about 50 doors. So that's £10 worth of PLA plastic to print those doors out. I'm just blown away by it, and they really are quite tough. I mean, maybe I didn't really show that. That's just, I mean, I can't. I'm putting a lot of pressure on that, and you're getting a bit of flex, and I could break it. I mean, without a doubt, if I pushed it hard enough, it would break. Bear in mind that these aren't solid. In the software, when you set it up, you can sort of say how much density it has in the center, and it creates like an open grid on the inside. So I could have made them a lot stronger. In fact, I've made parts for models such as this. Actually, let's just have a quick look at this. I've made parts for models like this, which all that is a little locking cap, as you can see with the weapon. Let me just zoom in a bit. Okay, so this is the weapon for the Goliath truck, and I had 2 of the spare weapons, but I didn't have only these mounting parts here were used up on the truck, so you could have the autocannon on. I 3D printed a little version of it, which enables it to go into there, just lock in, just like the original was intended to do, basically. Which enabled me to have the flamers with the side tanks there, and then on this version, I only had to magnetize that piece to swap between the laser and the sonic weapon. Can't remember what it's properly called, which has the common rear to the weapon there. So it's a really useful tool, and I don't think I've explored everything yet in terms of how to produce scenery with it. As you see, I've built some doors with it. I was chatting to Sam and Pink earlier about saying, you know, we could do interiors of the taverns and stuff like that for Frostgrave. So I'm pretty excited about that, and I'm going to have a lot of fun. And I think one last thing I haven't really talked about was, if you go onto Thingiverse, so if you think, well, the 3D modeling's not for me, then you can still get yourself a relatively cheap 3D printer, and there are wonderful people like Nephilim here, who has done an entire modular scenery. It's just, I mean, this is just ridiculous. It's amazing. It's absolutely beautiful. I mean, obviously it's limited by the quality of your 3D printer, but all of these files are available for download, and just look at that. It just looks fantastic. Really cool modular scenery piece. And he's kind of given, you know, okay, when you look close, yes, it's got lines and print lines and stuff like that, but, you know, really, you know, for a, you know, building your own Zone Mortalis board, absolutely amazing. Although you'd have to be pretty dedicated to print all of it, I have to say. But he's done some wonderful work, like exposing pipes underneath and doing the little connectors and the rest. So all of that is great stuff, and all of that is available to us hobbyists who either want to use Pringle tubs or you know, go a little bit crazy. I think when it comes to Frostgrave, I'm going to be using a mixture of the two. There's going to be a lot of blue foam modeling, of which that's ordered and on its way, so I'm pretty excited when the blue foam arrives. So we'll be building, the vast majority of it will be built out of blue foam, and just like the Zone Mortalis board, I think I'll be using a 3D printer for detail. Right, I don't know what's going off at the moment on the chat, so let's have a look and see if we can catch up with everybody. Okay. Right, it's taken me a while to organise where I was on the chat, so apologies for this. I always remember that. Okay, I think I'm more or less there. Hi everyone. Oh, that's Icaria. Patrick. Spreadsheet. Yes, it was from Spreadsheet. Thank you. C. Mawson. I still. Oh, Johnny Rockstar's joined us. Hey Johnny, how you doing? That was a while ago. Sorry for chatting so long. That's like a 10-minute stint of me rambling on. I still love Step Hills. As cool as GW Slope Hills on the Realm of Battle boards are, they are terrible for standing models on. If they've got a shiny surface, definitely your models will be slippery sliding their way down the base, and it can be quite frustrating. I tend to just PVA a little bit of grit and gravel on there just so the models will grip, or I just add a little bit of very fine sand, and I've even used what's it called now, rice flour, where you add that into the paint of your base coat paint, and it makes it very much like a texture paint, but it just puts the odd bit of grit in, which stops the models sliding down. Does my heading as well, Mr. Mawson. Kablams. As much as I love the terrain on Warhammer World tables, a few of the tables are almost unusable for bigger models in Age of Sigmar. Yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, the models are getting bigger and bigger. But again, you know, those models tend to be hugely powerful as well, but you know, so maybe some restrictions about where they can and can't go on the tables. Not that bad a thing. Depends whether your list relies on them or not. I don't know. Deadpool at Wargamer Online. What is my favourite Space Marine faction? I can answer that one. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. I want to say Space Wolves, but I'm going to say Imperial Fists. White Scars. Imperial Fists. I don't do a Space Marine faction. I did Dark Angels. They're in a tray. They're not quite finished. Okay, Shai Hulud. Derpimus Maximus spotted the Shai Hulud reference, which is from June the movie. Yes, the sandworm. So, of course, I liked the idea that my mining corporation was on a desert planet, and they were not mining minerals, but they were mining some kind of weird spice that was used to lengthen the lives, rejuvenate drug or something like that was the idea. And I love the idea that the worms themselves were some kind of tyrannid beast, Leviathan beast left over. So that was the reference I willingly stole from June for my mining corporation. Nathan99, that's one wonderful window piece. Kablam saying loves the doors. Thank you very much. Phil, what are the costs like for the plastic to print the doors? I think I covered that. I said a spool, just in case it was missed. The spools are about £20 to £25 each. You get 40 meters on a spool. No, more than that. You get a lot of meters on a spool. I know I used less than half a spool to produce 30 to 40 doors. I've not fully counted them. So that's £10 to £15 worth of plastic to do that. Right, doors look fantastic. Make your own Zone Mortalis board. I did indeed make my own Zone Mortalis boards, yes. But of course, maybe you're meaning the walls as well. I actually use the blue foam, of course, for mine, and I may have demonstrated that stuff anyway. The cost is pence. Did a video on printing a bulkhead, 3 hours, print 54 pence. Steve Smallworld. Well, there you go. Pennies, and that's what's really nice about it. If you're prepared to use something like Thingiverse and download the objects, then you can be up and running and doing some of this stuff yourself as well. I mean, just bear in mind that the quality is not going to be, it's not going to compare with some of this wonderful stuff. I mean, you know, I see it as supplementing, you know, stuff like this that I've got here, and you know, incredible things that they've been releasing recently, like the crane here, and so I'm going to litter the battlefield with as much of that as possible. And I honestly think if Games Workshop did a subscription thing where every month you received a crate, I'd sign up to it, because I think a crate a month, you know, keeps the line of sight away. So I'm talking to the wrong camera. Oh dear me. Oh dear me. Right, okay then. Where were we now? Sorry, I've really lost it now. Oh, unlucky where I live. 3D is still too expensive. I have to refer to yet external sources, yet prepared to be or personalized inventive ones. Well, that's a shame. I mean, I'm not quite sure where you live, Luca. My 3D printer, I had to wait like 3 months for it to arrive from China, but it eventually got to me. And then the spools of PLA I buy through Amazon. So I'm sure there's a million other 3D printing geniuses out there, but who could tell you a lot better than I can. But right now, I'm just starting out with that stuff. Kablams, YouTube hates me. I did a live stream earlier and the video is listed in my library as 4 months old. I don't understand that either. YouTube does behave very strange at times. My Samuel Raven Master was the same, Ralph. I think I've missed a comment there, but yes, I do have some Raven Wing. I have all of those. They are nice models. I should do something with them. At the moment, they're kind of very basic level. The only one I took anywhere is I did a custom build of Cypher, and I was really pleased with it. And then like a week later, Games Workshop released a new Cypher model, so I was good. Right, Johnny Rockstar, I think 3D printing is great. However, I have a Neanderthal way of thinking due to having been a joiner, so I'd like to try and build stuff from raw materials rather than magic computers. Well, you know, one of the things, it's a good point. One of the things I was looking at is I think you can combine both. You know, I was just well, we're not getting into that. There's my airbrush holders. I mean, it doesn't have to be for hobby stuff as well. I actually built a little rack of airbrush holders that sits on top of my spray tray, and I can just pop my 3 airbrushes into them, and it works fine. I'm not quite sure. Let's just see if I can actually. Can you see them? There they are. Look, there they are. Look, all in a row, nice and happy. in my airbrush holder, and as you can see, I've even printed a replacement cap because I actually lost my little cap as well. So it's a wonderful little tool to have to do some funny stuff with, basically. Oh, camera. Oh, now my airbrush is on the edge. How did that get there? Has that been there the whole time? Probably has. Don't know. Right, back to that. One of the things I was thinking was I very much intend to do the Frostgrave board, traditional sculpting. So it's going to be very much about making it out of blue foam and chopping away. But to help me visualize it, I was thinking I can set up, say, 2x2 squares in this, and let's assume 8mm thick on the board there. And then you can start to say, well, yeah, I'm going to have a building here, and I'm going to have a building here, and I'm going to have a big, long building there, and then a wide building there, and some kind of open area here. And the great thing about this is you can start to kind of visualize it quite quickly, and go into more detail as well. I mean, that's the great thing about this software enables you to kind of build, really, really quite quickly. So we go into that, we can kind of do walls. Whoa. I'll start to do walls. Then you can cut doors out. So I'm not going to go into a full tutorial of this software, but I've had a lot of fun with it. And you can start to then sort of get an idea of what the table's going to look like, how you're going to move around, whoa, in between buildings, and zoom, and how your table's going to work. So I think I am going to use the kind of 3D software to help me plan the table out for the first time, because I've spent a load of time doing sketches and things like that. I think that's a really useful tool to do. My plan is to get on Google Hangouts with Sam Pink and Salmon Pink. Salmon Pink. There's a new nickname for both of them. I'm going to get online with Salmon Pink, and we're going to design our Frostgrave board, and we'll be able to quickly visualize it and have a bunch of fun with that. And then once we've done that, it's just a question of chopping all the blue foam up to the size we want, which, all of the measurements are in there as well, and we can quickly just get on with building the board. Right. Okay. James Jones saying hi. My favourite is salamanders, says James Jones. Oh, I didn't even think of salamanders. There's too many Space Marines for me to have a favourite, maybe. Imperial Fists. I've always wanted to do Imperial Fists. Because I like painting yellow. Right, I didn't have any problems with him that I can remember. The Stormcast and Dracos were really annoying to do pieces. So I think we're just having some internal chat here. That's the way. That's cool. Ralph Hummel, it just seems right through the shoulder pad forms a gap. Oh, I think there's some discussions around a model that's being built right now, of course. And I'll leave you wonderful people to just carry on sorting that out between you. I tend to make shop bought stuff with plastic card scratch build. Well, I think that's the beauty of it, isn't it? You can have some real fun. I mean, look at this crazy thing. Is this going to work? Yeah, I mean, let's see if I can get this up. This is one of my more insane pieces. So let me just turn that off. And this is, a notice board, for want of a better word. And it's still in progress. But as you can see, I've gone as far as working on... let me see if I can zoom out a little bit so you guys can see more of it. There you go. There you go. So I've even gone as far as editing a little video to play on it. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I think I've gone too far now. I think when there's an active notice board, and this was a broken LCD screen, by the way, so that's why I used it, because the idea is I can just do a burn effect up that corner of the screen, and it doesn't matter that half of the screen's missing or something like that. So I've got everything like thoughts for the day and all sorts of administratorium official information, and it goes on. I think this thing plays for like 10 minutes or something, playing all sorts of stuff, including evacuation procedures, and I think there's even a report from the front in a sort of situation report. Here we go, look, including a bunch of binary code along the top. which is obviously clearly a secret message to the admechs who are tuning in as well. And I think it even goes on to do all sorts of stuff. We'll call it a day at that. But maybe too far for scenery. I don't know. When is too far for scenery? That's another question. Right. Okay then. I didn't have problems with. Right, Maximus. I have an old metal Ravenwing. I tend to put. Oh, here we go. Just C. Mawson just brought an airbrush today, ready to tackle my Thunderbolt fighter. Good luck. Thunderbolt fighter is a beautiful model. Take your time. Remember your pressure. Make sure you thin the paint correctly. DJ the Lucky One. Did Phil say what resolution he used? I had to pop out. Do you mean the resolution to the 3D printer? If I'm rough casting, it's a 0.4mm nozzle. So that's how wide it is. And if I'm printing something fast, and those doors were on the fast setting, that's a 0.2mm layer height. So it takes 5 passes to do a millimeter. If I'm doing finer stuff, which, as crazy as it sounds, this cap, for instance, which I wanted a really good fit into my brush, so that was done at 0.1mm height, just to give me a much finer finish. Certainly if I'm doing small scenery and stuff and little widgets and stuff, then I would use 0.1. Kabam saying I should get a 3D printer, and yes, the airbrush was there all along. Here it is. I'm so annoyed about that. It's the one thing I didn't think about when I set up my wonderful airbrush rack. I'm gonna have to move it along a bit. You don't know how much something like that will annoy me. Okay. Any chance on Frost and Fist saying any chance on blue foam tutorials? Absolutely. I've already been working on the stuff. I've done the final edit now on the stuff for the Zone Mortalis board, which has got everything from carving to using blowtorches to form it and melt it and glue it together and those kind of things. But our intention is to pretty much cover the Frostgrave board, which is also going to double up as an Age of Sigmar skirmish board from start to finish. So we'll be doing a full series on that. Right from opening the box of blue foam and getting all excited about it. James Jones, Phil, if you master it, could you do a forest board for Sylvan F? If the 3D printer? Crikey, I dare say probably what I would do is go along to Thingiverse and see if someone's already designed a tree. The software I use isn't brilliant at organic shapes. You can get other software that definitely is good at organic shapes, but finding the time to invest into learning that, I think Blender is one of the that's free, as in it's open source. And it's a very, very sophisticated bit of 3D software and ideal for building models without you having to pay an absolute fortune. I've just actually looked down the chat to see MCM1966 to say, have I looked at Blender 3D? It's an amazing bit of software and it's free. Yes, it is. I have had a look at it. What I like about SketchUp was the fact it's very, very quick to pick up, the whole push and extrude and something like that. As yet, it looks like Blender's a little bit more like traditional 3D software and takes a little bit more to bend your head around. But that's just my understanding of it. I do need to spend some time kind of watching tutorials and stuff, but at the moment I haven't got a lot of time to invest into learning new software, particularly with work going into the channel and the day job as well. So but I have downloaded Blender, I've had a look at it, and in fact I've used it on some of the more sophisticated stuff I've done, but it takes me an age. It's painful. I'm an old man, and teaching an old dog new tricks is tricky. Right, okay then. Fell hate, that notice board is awesome. Thank you very much. That board is in no way too far. Derpimus Maximus saying it's possibly the greatest scenery piece ever. I'm not sure. It's got, believe it or not, it's got a sister piece as well, which is the entrance board instructing the miners what to do as they enter the mine for my Zone Mortalis board. So it's telling them the shift patterns and all the rest. Again, maybe too far. I don't know. I built it. I built that and the other piece for a Armies on Parade board, and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't finish it because I just thought it's not fair, because some people have built absolutely beautiful boards, and you just know that something like that, because they see a telly, they'll just go, "That's amazing," and you know, it's not really. But anyway, but thank you anyway. I think it'll look fun on the table. It'll look fun on the table, but I don't think it will translate well to battle reports and stuff like that. But it'll look fun on the table, and it's a nice little gimmick, isn't it? Imagine having that featured on a big event. I'm assuming that's the scenery board. Yeah, I do need to get it done. Thank you. There's a lot of people saying they like the notice board, so thank you very much. I probably shouldn't be down on my own work, should I? And here I was awed by that LED lit object marker earlier this year. Objective marker earlier this year. Yeah. Yeah, I do go a bit mental, don't I? The notice board looks insane in terms of immersion from James Jones. Okay, yeah, I have gone too far now. Neil is heading off, so good night, Neil. Neil Malden, thank you very much for joining us. Mark Gray, is that 100 microns at 0.1? I don't know the micron measurement, so you'll have to excuse me that. All I know is in the software I use to create the final object, which is Cura, C-U-R-A, you can set the depth, and I know my printer was capable of 0.1 because it's a Prusa i3, or at least it's a version of a Prusa i3. There's the home build sort of 3D printer basically. So yes, it's 0.1 millimeter. So I know it takes 10 passes to do a millimeter depth, basically. If that's 100 microns, then yes. Right, Kablams knows how to use Blender. Maybe you can give me a lesson. His notice board is amazing. Thank you very much, Kablams. The thing that might be too far would be making a levitating flock of servo skulls with an electromagnet or something. Don't say something like that. You'll get me excited. Organic shapes, you would want to use ZBrush. I would, but I think ZBrush is crazy expensive. I think Maya was always my favorite 3D modeling software. I remember back in my day working with a chap who grew up on Maya, and he loved it. Right, Emperor of Denmark. Could you in theory build an Imperial Fortress? Absolutely, you could build an Imperial Fortress. I don't. You wouldn't do it as one piece. Obviously, because of the size of the printing thing, you'd have to plan it out. You'd have to almost plan it like flat pack, you know, the front panel, the back panel, maybe a top piece. But you absolutely could build an Imperial Fortress. If you don't mind the fact that you're obviously going to have that kind of styration of the layers and stuff like that you get with extrusion 3D printers. Okay, right. Steve Smallworld, a crafter, is always his worst critic. Yeah. Well, there you go. DJ the Lucky One saying 1 millimeter is indeed 1,000 microns. So yes, 100 microns. Right. Also, Phil, could you make a scoreball for Blood Bowl? It would need to look a little bit more magic-y. I was tempted with that. I've got one old iPhone 4 that no longer connects to anything. It doesn't connect to Bluetooth. It doesn't connect to Wi-Fi or anything like that. But you can still sync with it. So in theory, I could drop. I did think an iPhone 4 would fit nicely as a scoreboard. And you know what? I discounted it because I thought technology doesn't really belong in Blood Bowl. But you've got a point. It could be magic. It could be a magic scoreboard, couldn't it? So why not? I might have to have a look at that. Thank you for the idea. Right. Whoa. Where are we going now? Oh my goodness me. I've completely lost the chat for a minute. So just bear with me a second, folks. This happens to Sam as well. There's something about how the chat scrolls that sometimes it just goes crazy and you don't know where you are in the chat. James Jones, has Sam asked you to airbrush the Dreadsaurian yet? No, he hasn't. No, he's not. I don't think he's built it yet. He's focusing on his Frostgrave army at the moment, but it will be coming this way soon, I believe. Wargamer Online, ZBrush is about $700 US. Yes, it is about that, and that is pretty cheap compared to a lot of 3D software, but it's still a lot of money. Certainly for us to invest in the channel and for how much we'd get out of it as well. I know that Sam really wanted to learn how to use ZBrush, and I think he even downloaded the demo, but it ran out. Right, okay then. If you're designing scenery as a flat back for 3D printing, you could print it flat too, so there's less height for styrations. Yes, of course. You still get the pass, if you like, of the nozzle passing backwards and forwards, but I believe in the latest version of Cura, they've offered a polish function where it passes the head back a few more times without the PLA coming out, and it kind of is meant to polish the surface a bit smoother. Not tried it yet because that requires you to have a PC plugged into your 3D printer, and at the moment I transfer my stuff with memory cards because I've moved my 3D printer essentially into my workshop on the drive because it was driving my wife crazy, buzzing all night like wah, 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 wah. And it does. Oh, by the way, 3D printing, I'm still convinced that you could design an object that would play a tune with your 3D printer. You've just got to somehow work out the algorithm, what's required to play a tune. But it can get quite melodic. A lot of people loving ZBrush. But its UI looks like it was created by a crazy person in his shed. The GW at Birmingham has scratch built a Chaos Fortress for AOS and a ruined Imperial Cathedral for 40k. That is 4 to 5 levels high. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing as well. I think combining 3D print and, you know, if you're doing large walls, then the idea of printing a large wall is probably a bit crazy. Print the details to a fasten to a piece of cardboard, you know, and it would have the same effect. So you could print, you know, these sections of riveted bars and stuff like that, and, you know, run hundreds of those off and then just, you know, stick them onto your cardboard and stuff and make stuff faster. Right, okay then. At Wargamer Online, this is Karanis. I think ZBrush Core is cheaper and a nice starter. Also, if you have sculpted, I think that's it. It should be free. Okay, I'll have to have a look at that. I shall have to have a look into that then. You increase the number of top layers, it will help smooth it. There you go. Okay, I'll have to try that. Again, it's very early days for me with 3D printing, and like I say, to a degree, because that was, you know, these were mining walls. I really quite like the fact they were, you know, that you had this styration. To be honest, I was quite pleased with that. And what I was most pleased with is, you know, printing 20 of them in one go. You're an old school memory cards. For you youngins. Right, okay, what is my biggest scenery fail? Okay, let's have a think about. I made, yeah, I made an Eldar tower. Yeah, and it was meant to be an Eldar equivalent of the fortress, you know, the bastion, because I was just going to proxy the rules. And again, I was going for that organic shape, and I built it out of blue foam and carved it, and it didn't look great at this, so it already didn't look great. And then I put loads of thick, I'd mix plaster and paint together to give it a thick sort of, I was trying to get that Wraith bone effect, and that went on. That didn't look great either. It looked like I'd covered it in toothpaste. And then I thought, well, I'll prime it. Obviously, the blue foam is covered now with the paint and plaster, so it's okay for a coat of primer. And it had these like offshoots and stuff like that. And I hit it with the primer so I could then do a paint job on it. And looking back, I don't even know why I primed it, because it got like a, you know, like a mixture of emulsion and plaster all over it anyway. But I think I wanted to kind of get a decent bond for the airbrush. I was going to airbrush it, and it turns out that the coat of paint and plaster had got micro pores everywhere, and the primer soaked into the blue foam and started to melt it from the inside, and it looked like, so it went horrible, and it all kind of caved in, and these outer spurs just fell off. And it ended up like this horrible hollow shell full of thick blue foam gunk that melted. So that's probably my worst, I think. Probably. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm going back some years now. There was also the cardboard scenery you got in things like Bloodbath at Orcs Drift. Orcs Rift. Orcs Drift. Orcs Drift, because it was based on Orcs, wasn't it? And yeah, I remember building all of those up and spending ages trying to get them right. And again, I was young, they didn't look fantastic, and I had them in a shoebox all stacked on top of each other, and I put them in the back of my friend's car, and we had one other person to pick up on the way to the game, and he jumped in the car and sat on the shoebox of cardboard scenery, and yeah, he flat packed a lot, and of course they all tore and ripped. And we because we wanted the game, we sellotaped it all together. When we got. That didn't look great either. So probably, yeah, either of those two. You pick. Not my strongest times. Right, okay. Johnny Rockstar, I'm still trying to think of scenery to build out of the Tassimo coffee pods because I go through thousands of them. Yeah, that's the Tassimo ones. Is that the bigger one or the smaller one? I'm just having a look at what I've got. I think that's the Tassimo. Yeah, radar dishes. I don't know. Storage tanks, tops of underground storage tanks. You know, like as if the tank's buried below the ground. Something like that with a few pipes in between them. You'll think of something. Dipimus Maximus, I found a bunch of old cassettes when I dug out my old scenery and stuff a few months ago. I don't own a cassette player anymore though. No, but they are coming back in fashion. So yeah, you get saving your cassettes. You never know. I know cassettes are following the vinyl trend now. Right, 3D printing is the modern day matchstick building. Okay, right. What time are we at? I'm well over my time, and maybe it's enough to call it a night. I don't think I quite covered everything I wanted to do. I wanted to talk a little bit about Frostgrave, but maybe we'll save that for another show when we've got more of the board planned. I'll tell you what, when I managed to plan the board out a little bit with when I managed to plan the board out of it, I've just seen Luke's APS's comments to me that were popping up on Facebook. That's what was going ping earlier, like crazy. So there you go. I wanted to have a look at Frostgrave because some people out there have done a ton of brilliant stuff. So I'm going to give a quick glimpse at it. So this is just Googling Frostgrave board and selecting images. And as you can see, there's some absolutely stunning work out there as well. So I'm very, very excited to be doing ours. We're going to aim for 4x4. We're going to have lots of fun stuff in it. So I'm pretty excited to be doing this. We're going to cover it all on video as well. But like I say, I think we'll do a planning stage inside the software and we can have a chat about that and people can give feedback about what they think would make an interesting table. We're going to go through the scenarios with pink as well that are contained in the expansion packs. So we know that we're producing scenery that will be relevant to the game. But like I say, for me, most exciting bit as well is we'll be able to use it on Sigmar as well. So you know, using it for the Sigmar skirmish game as well. So I'm pretty excited to be getting into that because I've always been a fan of the smaller sort of skirmish games and the RPG sort of driven games. Pretty excited by that. Right, okay then. Looks like we had some spam. Well, that's the second time in 2 weeks, isn't it? I suppose it's going to happen, isn't it? But thank you, Akaria, for dealing with that. You're an angel. Okay, 40k Redux got his hands covered in polystyrene cement putting together a Terror of the Lich Master cardboard scenery. I was very young. I was terrified I'd get a big telling off from my dad. Polystyrene cement building cardboard scenery. Good man. That's quite funny. Kibalams. Frostgrave scenery deserves a week of shows. Agreed. We will do something to focus on that as we go through. I think that's probably enough from me tonight. I should imagine I've bored you all silly by now. Well, I hope you enjoyed the show. It was a bit of a mad ramble, which Monday Musings is always meant to be. And it was just about a bunch of stuff going through my head and what we're trying to do with scenery and the role it plays in the game. And it was really nice to have some of your feedback as well and some of your thoughts. I mean, we'll certainly bear in mind when it comes to the battle reports, making sure we don't overcrowd it, but at the same time, you know, finding the balance that will make it interesting for the players as well. So, right, yes, I do need to put my head down, Ralph. Thank you very much. Oh, you need to put your head down as well too. Well, there you go. I've got a long day waiting for me tomorrow. Bless you. Well, I hope your long day isn't too long. We will smooth our way through to Fridays where we can catch up with Sam on his chat. Right. Well, thank you very much all. Just a reminder for all of you wonderful people that are out there, pop along and check us out on the website as well. There's been a whole load of new premium content gone up there in the last few weeks, so check it out. If you're not already a premium member, we'd love you to be so and support us. The last battle report that went up there's a quick preview there of Sam's Iron Jaw versus Nurgle. And I think that was against Liam as well. That was a great battle report. Looked like a lot of fun. And very impressed with the fact that Liam actually dressed smart for it as well. So well done, Liam. I'm impressed. You really did show up on best form. So thank you very much for that. Like I say, I really appreciate for everybody who's already a premium member. Thank you very much for subscribing and supporting us. And yeah, keep tuned and we'll see you again soon. I'll say good night at that. Good night all. Thank you. Bye.